Welcome to the HR Community Podcast. My name is Shane O'Neill, founder of Civitas Talent, the HR and HSE recruitment community. Each episode we will host HR leaders and discuss their journey and discover best practice HR solutions across the HR industry. Whether you're a CEO, HR executive, or operating across the wider HR space, this podcast is for you. Please like and subscribe, and don't forget to comment and share your reviews. Enjoy the episode. Hi everyone, and welcome to another HR Community Podcast. I'm joined with Leanne Lang here today. Leanne is the National Head of HR for Heinemann Australia. Welcome, Leanne.
Thank you, Shane. What a delight to be here talking with you today.
Thanks so much for joining. Really over to you, Leanne. Would love to hear a bit more about you and your role and a bit more about the Heinemann business.
Yeah, of course. Look, I'm really proud to work for Heinemann. I'm the head of human resources, as you've mentioned, for Australia. We are based at the Sydney Airport and the Gold Coast Airport, international airports. We are over 140 years in business globally, so rich in history. Right. I'm very privileged to lead an amazing group of HR talent and very privileged to work with an incredible group of executive leaders. It is run by the fifth generation of the Heinemann family, so known as the Gebruder Heinemann, which is essentially Brothers Heinemann. And we are, a huge global footprint in the travel retail market. Obviously gone through some really challenging times in the last couple of years, but coming back stronger than ever. So, yeah, I'm really lucky and privileged to be in the HR team with them.
Oh, that's amazing. And look, I hear you, across the sector, it's been bit choppy over the last few years, and it's great to see Sydney open again, Australia open again. Wow. I know personally I can't wait to get my family and friends that are overseas into Australia for a holiday now, so very exciting times.
Absolutely, get the passport out.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I actually applied for one recently, so that'll be my first Australian passport. Very exciting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So look, in terms of your HR journey, Leanne, like you've clearly worked in some amazing brands across Australia, from Perth originally. Tell us a little bit about your sort of journey. Why did you want to get into HR and sort of stem from there?
Yeah, it was definitely a concerted decision to get into HR. I have been in the industry now for just over 17 years, and like you've mentioned, been really lucky to have worked in a variety of industries. And a lot of people think when you start in an industry, you have to keep going in that same industry. But one of the beauties of HR is that you're dealing with people, and people are different everywhere you go. You can learn about businesses, you can learn about industries, but all of the skills in HR are very transferable from industry to industry. So I really encourage anyone that's out there choosing HR to expand your wings. It diversifies your knowledge, and people are people, so you're going to be getting new challenges everywhere you go. I credit my decision to get into HR through a career counsellor, actually. So when I first studied, I did a business degree, so just looked at the overall, business functions and wanted to get into tourism management. Actually, I did a double degree in tourism management and HR. So started with that, and then really sort of thought, where will this lead me? Really didn't see a clear career path, and decided to go and speak to one of the career counsellors at the uni. And, in their way, they nut out sort of what things you hold dear to you, where your values are. And I don't know about you, Shane, but whenever I take one of those online career counselling, it always comes up for me as psychologist or teacher or, lawyer and HR has often come up. So I decided to give it a go. It was at a time when universities weren't doing a lot of HR management, but I was lucky enough to be in one that was, and I've really never looked back. It was the perfect career for me. I love what I do. And so, I credit it to career counselling.
Fantastic. Amazing. And you mentioned 17 years in the industry. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm old now. Yes, 17 years. So I've seen a lot of changes. I've really seen a lot of changes in HR So, going from, look, I really think it depends on the company you join as well, and the influence that you hold, and how good you are at sort of spreading the knowledge when it comes to how people can drive a business. But I see the shift in reactive to really proactive. You're always going to have your reactive things that you need to deal with, but it's very much gone from not just compliance and paperwork and, to really, really being able to influence the decisions of a business, particularly over the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know there's been a huge transformation over the last sort of decade or two in HR, but more specifically in the last sort of 2-3 years with the pandemic. I guess from your personal experience, what have you seen as the sort of more major transformations in that sort of pre-pandemic, pandemic, sort of post-ish pandemic at the moment?
Yeah. Just that anything that's, I guess, planned can go out the window very, very quickly. So being able to be agile, I refuse to use the word pivot at the moment, so I'm not going to use it. But being able to be flexible in the way you think. I know you and I have had so many conversations in the last, year and a half, Shane, around if HR isn't in the spotlight now, then I think you're wasting an opportunity. It's never been more needed. It's never been more listened to. So keeping up with all the changes that are happening in legislation and, the focus on wellbeing has never been more important as well, because it's no longer a taboo topic. It's something that we all dealt with as HR leaders, as business leaders, as human beings. So keeping that wellness agenda on the table, but also just being able to respond really quickly to changes and leading people through that. It's crazy, and leaning on each other. I've never seen more sharing in the industry than in the last, couple of years, where you're like, wow, this is crazy, and what's going to happen next, and what are you doing in this space, and how can I share my learning? So I'm loving that about the community, the amount of webinars out there, which you need to keep up with changes, but just being a bit fearless with decisions you're making as well, because you're being looked to help with making those decisions.
Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, for yourself as well, Leanne, like you touched on that ability to be sort of agile and adapt and change, etc. Do you feel like, going back to your point earlier, changing different industries, company sizes, even locations, do you think that kind of experience has sort of set you up to deal with I guess the unpredictable nature of the world? Yeah.
I really do. Yeah, it's actually a good point, Shane. I've never really looked at it like that. But I do. I've taken some, calculated risks. I've always sort of gone with what my heart and my head combined is telling me. And, the move that I did, obviously from Perth to Sydney, was a big one, and I backed myself with that. And I do feel like I've learnt a lot of skills when it's come to just adapting and embracing change. And I think one of the things that I try and teach if I'm mentoring people, or if I'm guiding my team, is to keep optimistic. Not necessarily saying that you need to keep positive, because there's a difference between positivity and optimism, but just seeing the challenges as hope. We've gotten out of things, and things evolve, and history shows us that things evolve, and where our survival instincts kick in. So optimism is really, really important, particularly for what we're going through at the moment.
Love that. And you actually answered the next question I was going to ask you, regarding what sort of advice you would give to aspiring leaders, or, other sort of like-minded HR professionals out there, given we talked about that optimism piece, challenges ahead for HR. We've talked about HR transforming over the last couple of years. It's going to continue transforming, and we know that it's I feel personally like it's evolving even faster now with technology and this ability to just work, across most locations and time zones with the blink of an eye. What sort of challenges do you predict HR is going to face in the coming years?
Oh, I think you can relate to this. The war for talent has never been, this critical. So some of the things we're working on in strategy with my business is that EVP, that employer value proposition and employee value proposition, really around what's in it for me. So, you think about things like flexibility that used to be sort of up there in the things that would influence why someone stays. That's gone. That's a given now. I know not for every role. Some roles, their tool of trade is to be in the business, like ours, being retail, but you can't use that as a leverage anymore. That's an expectation. So it's, what am I offering our people? And learning and development is having a moment, but also how you learn and how you grow your own way. So some of the offerings I'm doing in our business at the moment is, growing your own way. We've just introduced things like LinkedIn Learning, which is phenomenal. Anything you need. It's that mix of classroom-based, forum-based versus online-based. It's really trying to give people everything they need to not just grow professionally, but also grow personally. Because so much of our lives are just integrated. That's right. And that's the reality. We're in each other's homes. We've probably worked in our pajamas with people at some stage in the last couple of years. So it's all focused on, integrating your life. I just think really focusing on what you can offer and what you can add, making sure that you're recruiting to your values and the culture fit, but really, really putting some strong offers out there of why people would want to join you and why people would want to stay with you. Really important.
I love
mental
that.
Health. Sorry.
That's all right. That's right. Yeah. I was going to say, I know you're a strong advocate for the well-being side. I've started to see more organizations invest heavily in well-being as not just part of a HR role, but more of a dedicated role or a dedicated function itself. Like, do you think that's going to become something in the future where, well-being is its own, identity essentially?
Yeah, I really do. I really do. And look, if you don't have the budget or the capacity at the moment to be having a dedicated person, because let's face it, a lot of businesses don't, you can create champions in your business who are very focused on it and, can influence in that space. But, the EAPs, the employee assistance programs, are really critical for every business. I think it's a really important investment, even if it's not used, but it does show that you're thinking and caring about your team members having somewhere else to go to speak and their family members. But just, even the things around what fits with somebody's life. Yeah. So wellbeing can even be around, well, I have to drop my child off to school at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. So me thinking about what would make your life easier would be maybe a staggered start, allowing output focus rather than, a set start and finish time, which I think we're getting better with. But it's just also recognising when your cup needs to be filled. Yeah. And having those conversations, starting those conversations with people to allow them to be vulnerable.
And I think that's a great point as well, like around having the conversation. I think communication is just so vital, especially when a lot of us are working from home. We don't have the daily interactions in the office. We sort of have that light bulb moment to chat to someone about something or ask them a question out of the blue. So yes, it's almost like that communication piece sort of needs to be built into the HR strategy quite heavily as well. I was going to ask you about, and you touched on it earlier, the war on talent. And, I know personally the recruitment space is crazy at the moment. What advice would you give organizations, having been in the industry for some time, Leanne, and having worked across different sectors and different roles? what kind of experience would you give, or what kind of advice would you give organizations out there who are, struggling with this war of talent? They might not have all the bells and whistles, they might not have the brand, but there might be individuals in their business at the moment who could step into some of those roles, or as you said earlier, like what is the L&D strategy and what does that function and approach look like? What sort of advice would you give those organizations?
It's a really good question because not everyone can afford to attract the talent that they may need to take them forward. But I would really, really advise and guide people to look at their internal talent.
Yeah.
And when we think about talent, so we've just gone through, and I'm sure a lot of HR professionals do much the same, really keep your focus and your continual conversation on what you've got in your business. So a part of that is understanding each and every individual in your business. So you would go through, for instance, a lot of professionals would use that 9-box grid around potential versus performance. It would give you an opportunity to talk specifically to every individual and where they fit, understanding what their career path looks like, and actually identifying career paths for people. Some of the reasons why people leave is because they don't see what's next for them. Yeah. So having those active discussions, even if that next career path could be a couple of years away, will be really important, A, to keep them motivated and engaged, B, to show them that you do see them in your future. One of the really big assumptions that is often made is that people only stay for more money or people only stay for the promotion. That's not necessarily true. I think the most important thing, and one of the things that I ask in all of these talent, sessions that we do, is what do you know motivates this person?
Love it.
It's very different for everybody, very, very different. So it could be, well, I'm motivated by my family. I'm motivated by the values of the business. I'm motivated by money and money only. I'm motivated by title, or could be a combination of all. So just, really seek to understand that individual, and then you know how to manage them, lead them, engage them, motivate them, look for stretch opportunities. We do that a lot in our business. So, you could have talent that wants to give something a go and might need a little bit of training to get there. But once you give them the stretch opportunity, they're flying. Yeah. So, you can get really creative in this space.
Yeah, I love that. And you touched on motivation as well. How important is it for organizations who are hiring to start asking those questions to, potential candidates and applications who are coming through? Because I guess the best way to understand if they're a good fit for the role in the business, but are they a good fit for the future is to sort of ask what motivates them.
Yeah, I never do an interview without the question.
Right.
It's, for me, it shows that you're really interested in that person specifically. Mm-hmm. B, you already know what your culture is, although cultures are very hard to define, but you have an intrinsic insight into what the company culture is. So just through the answers, you'll be able to determine whether there'll be a fit or not. That combined with a values discussion, I think that's always really important. So knowing the values of the organisation and what you live and breathe, and the values of that person. And if there's some sort of alignment there, then you'll generally find that, you're in the right direction. But I will always ask a candidate what motivates them. I also ask candidates, how will we know when you're stressed?
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Everyone shows that in a different light, and stress is not a bad thing. It's just how would we recognise that when you need a little bit of relief, or you need a little bit of extra support, or, your list is full and you don't want to say anything. So just more about the person.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I love that because I know, like, something that we do in recruitment quite a lot is we assess how candidates would respond to certain situations, obviously more behavioral type questions. How would you respond to challenges? But having more of a direct spin on it, like you said, what stresses you out, what frustrates you, you could potentially get a bit more from that kind of a personalized answer, as opposed to asking quite generic behavioral questions, which obviously have their place as well. I'm sure there's a lot of listeners, Leanne, that are coming up through the ranks, aspiring leaders that will be keen to get a bit of advice from you, given your experience. What would you say, and I know we touched on a little bit of this already, but what would you say would be, the top 3 hot tips for any aspiring HR leader out there?
Yeah. For one, it's be your authentic self. Mm-hmm. So, one of the beauties of being in HR is that you can give so much of yourself to others to guide them and influence them and, give them some hope in certain situations. So being authentic is really important. Don't try and mirror someone else's style. Mm-hmm. And that's why that fit to your organisation is really important, that you believe in them, that you really champion for them, because if you can't, then you're never going to be your authentic self. Right. So that's definitely one. The other is I really believe in being a business leader first, mm-hmm. before an HR professional. Yeah. So really, if you're new to a role, then listen more than you talk, to understand the challenges and the frustrations. And as we know, there can be little businesses in one big business in each individual function. So if you want that person to trust you, if you want that person to seek your guidance and advice, then you need to understand them and their world first, and understand what little things make their world tick, or what their challenges are. So see yourself as a business leader first. Where there's opportunities to speak business rather than HR, use those opportunities. So don't just make your reading list HR related, make your reading list things that are, worldly and relevant to business in general. Get involved in the business strategy rather than just the HR strategy, because your HR strategy is informed by your business strategy. Right. So, they're things that I sort of live and breathe by, and I've learned along the way in my career that that's probably the most important thing.
Fantastic.
The third thing I would say is, make sure your cup is full, or at least halfway full, before you try and fill somebody else's. Because when you're drained and when you're, that lovely term, burnt out, you can't give to others in the way that they deserve and the way that you deserve to give it. So recognise when you need to just, mentally recharge.
Love that. Oh, thanks so much, Leanne. Well, look, I do have a couple of more shorter, quick response type questions, which we can run through now. First question, Leanne, most influential person?
That's the impossible question. If I had to narrow it, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, awesome. Trailblazer.
Love it. Best lesson learned?
Don't sweat the small stuff. There's a great book on it. Small stuff happens every day.
It does.
Just move on.
It really does. Office, work from home, hybrids. What's your preference?
If your role allows, hybrid all the way.
Love it. Who do you inspire?
I hope my teenage son.
Yeah.
I just want him to.
Have you got any feedback yet?
Yeah, I do. We have a lot of dinner conversations, and I think working from home, he's listened to a lot. So we could have a future HR leader on our hands.
I love it. Amazing. Well, I'll keep an eye out. What frustrates you, Leanne?
I think I've touched on this already in this conversation, just pessimism.
Yeah.
When you refuse to see hope and, just try optimism. It's the brighter side.
Yeah, I love it. How do you keep mentally focused?
Oh, I'd love to say I meditate every day, but I don't. I do it every now and then. Yeah. I think before I said don't sweat the small stuff, it's really, really understanding what your focus is to go on and being really considered about that, and what doesn't deserve your time and energy, and finding ways to relax, like for me, that's really important
100%.
to just do that when I've got the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly right. If you could have dinner with just one person, Leanne, who would it be?
I'm going to stay local and say Ando.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because he is an amazing storyteller. Amazing. He's got some incredible stories to tell. Came to Australia as a refugee.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of his performances and wow, he can engage an audience. He's hugely creative, Archibald Prize participant, and he's funny. And I just want to have dinner with someone that can keep me entertained. So I'm going to say
Love that one. Final question for you. Ideal retreat or holiday experience, which is super relevant right now in the world because borders are opened. But yeah, sort of ideal retreat, holiday experience, Leanne.
Anywhere where there's incredible food and I can learn about a new culture.
Yeah.
And put some good wine in there too. So that's perfect for me.
Love it. Yeah, I like those. Well, look, that's pretty much everything from me. Thank you so much for joining us today. So much insight there, not just into your journey, but what aspiring leaders can really look at, what kind of challenges we're predicting in HR and how to approach them. So thank you again, Leanne. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Thanks, Shane. All my pleasure. Take care.
Take care. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the HR Community Podcast. Remember to like and subscribe and share your views and comments below. This podcast was brought to you by Civitas Talent, the HR and HSC recruitment community. Whether you're a candidate looking for a new role or organization looking to secure brand new talent for your team, please get in touch with us today. Thank you.